The movie begins with music playing as characters navigate what seems to be a desert landscape. They appear to be on a journey that gets interrupted when they are asked to step out of their truck and open trunks for inspection. A journey through the desert is abruptly interrupted by a military-like checkpoint, leading to a high-tension altercation. Afterwards, in a new location, new recruit Steve Kersher is introduced to Sergeant Kinley and his junior, JJ. Steve is introduced to Kinley's team and Ahmed, their new interpreter. Kinley uses a semi-confrontational interview technique to understand Ahmed better. Ahmed responds to Kinley's questions with respect, despite their provocations, establishing his mechanical expertise. Ahmed, despite being probed by Kinley's confrontational style, manages to keep his cool, introducing himself to the team. The team's banter revolves around food, demonstrating a certain camaraderie. They then switch their focus to their job of locating weaponry. The team, led by Kinley and interpreted by Ahmed, searches a local man's house believing it could be storing Taliban firearms. However, they find nothing and the man, likely innocent, expresses frustration. Their intel appears to be inaccurate. The team's demeanor demonstrates their weariness of finding no concrete leads. Ahmed, equipped with extensive local knowledge, simply remarks he is a man about town. After their initial search yields no results, the team humorously discusses their future. Their conversation is interrupted when they stumble upon what appears to be a Taliban HQ and decide to continue their mission, all the while trying to keep spirits high with light-hearted banter. Later, they enjoy a brief respite, discussing personal matters over a barbecue. Having a barbecue, Steve, a young recruit, is playfully asked when he'll have his first beer. Later, John confronts the general about the constant danger they are put in without substantial results. The general gives him the freedom to get creative in achieving their objectives, implying that he can bend the rules if it leads to success. Without General's approval, John secures Declan's help in procuring a list of unvetted targets. John then proceeds to plan his unsanctioned mission. Steve recognizes Faraj, a crucial target, setting the stage for the next offensive. John pursues his mission aggressively, detaining and interrogating Faraj, a vital target. Faraj resists, threatening John with revenge. Using a blend of intimidation and bribery, John presses him for the location where the Taliban manufactures their improvised explosive devices, IEDs. Faraj grudgingly reveals that there isn't just one location where the Taliban manufacture explosives. A skeptical John offers more money if the information can be verified. Faraj paints a grim picture revealing that new explosives are being sent across the country. The relationship between Faraj and Ahmed raises questions, indicating that Ahmed might have previously been involved in the heroin trade. John learns Ahmed is working with him because the Taliban killed his son. Afterwards, he apologizes to a fellow sergeant for overstepping his authority. He later receives a strategic suggestion from Hadi about their first operation against the IED manufacture sites. The team decides to follow Hadi's alternate route advice despite there being insufficient intelligence to back it. When Ahmed senses something is wrong, he requests they stop in an unorthodox break of procedure. This reveals his suspicion about Hadi's unexpected decision. Ahmed, suspicious of Hadi's motive behind the route selection, suggests they're being led into a trap. Despite being told that his duty extends to translation only, he insists on giving his interpretation of the situation. They halt, verify the safety of the road through drone imagery, but Hadi insists the road is safe. While waiting for drone imagery for ensuring the road safety, Ahmed loses his temper and accuses Hadi of betraying their location. Just as John manages to de-escalate the situation, the imaging suggests an ambush lies ahead, validating Ahmed's suspicions. Following an abrupt turnaround, John can finally take the opportunity for text or video call with his family. His wife speaks of their business as success, but the distance between them is practical and emotional. Despite the danger in his location, he does his best to maintain a semblance of normalcy during his call. John's emotional call with his wife ends, indicating that not only is distance a barrier, but also their bond is fraying. Further, Ahmed, while looking after Bucket, shares the grim news of Hadia's son joining the Taliban. The visas they were waiting for are still in progress. Toward the end of the scene, the base commander appears seemingly appreciative of Ahmed's efforts but dubious about him. The team embarks on a distant operation, seeking an arms cache located far from their base. Despite the physical discomfort of the journey and the painful memory of their lost comrade Jack, they press on. Upon arrival, they organize a final comms check and start their search, taking the locals by surprise. The team arrives at an old mining area, suspecting it to be a hidden armory. The landowner insists they're mistaken, directing them to another site. However, upon detecting suspicious behavior, the soldiers decide to switch tactics and secure the area immediately. The team uncovers an IED factory with 4 hostile tangos inside. John calls for immediate air support as the soldiers move to secure the place. A heated gunfight ensues, leaving one of their own injured. Despite the danger, they successfully manage to secure the area and stand ready for the next orders. The situation exacerbates. An explosive charge is set with a 3-minute timer. Suddenly, Eddie is shot down. As they frantically move him to safety, they also spot 2 approaching Taliban trucks. As the firefight continues, they urgently call for air support, which is 15 minutes away. Meanwhile, the first enemy truck arrives on scene. Eddie's team tries to push back the advancing Taliban. As more members of the team fall, an intense firefight ensues, endangering the entire team. They are forced to abandon their vehicle due to the flat tire. The Taliban, aware of their predicament, are on their trail. After a fierce battle, Eddie's team is left on high alert with Taliban forces on their tail. They are in hostile territory, and any movements, even minimal, have become life-threatening. They decide to lay low and set up camp for the night. Meanwhile, the Taliban leader orders his men to capture Eddie's team alive. Things intensify when they encounter an ambush and Brent loses his gun in the scuffle. Eddie hands him. The Taliban leader urges his fellow soldiers to capture Eddie's team alive. The team, realizing they're being located, moves on foot to avoid detection. They encounter a local man with a vehicle, convincing him to give them a ride. Meanwhile, a Taliban soldier is hellbent on killing a Muslim trader amongst Eddie's team. After evading a Taliban patrol, Eddie and Sulla meet a friendly local man during their meal. The latter, wary of the Taliban, agrees to help them. He provides some food, pain relief for Sulla, and even exchanges his wooden cart for their conspicuous truck. He warns Eddie of the heavy bounty on their heads and the large number of Taliban soldiers searching for them. As Eddie and Sulla proceed with caution following the local man's advice, they stumble upon John Kinley from their military team, assumed to be MIA. After managing to capture him, they rush him to their base for medical attention. A hospital staffer welcomes Kinley home, implying his ordeal is over and he'll be receiving a medal soon. Recovering from his ordeal, Kinley receives a medal although he can't remember anything from his rescue mission. He insists that the local man, Ahmed, deserves the accolade. As it turns out, Ahmed has become a folk hero for his bravery, cynosure of the Taliban's fury, and is now missing. Desperate to help Ahmed, Kinley reaches out to his contacts to secure a visa for him. However, the uncooperative bureaucracy makes the process difficult, as Ahmed has now gone underground to avoid the Taliban and Kinley struggles to complete a form without Ahmed's direct communication due to his situation. Kinley is frustrated as he attempts to navigate the bureaucratic hurdles of securing a visa for Ahmed and his family. Despite possessing a letter from Colonel Masters, he is informed that the process will take a minimum of 9 months, complicating Ahmed's predicament as he's hiding from the Taliban. Kinley reaches his boiling point when he calls USCIS as they put him on hold repeatedly. His frustration explodes, threatening the representative. Meanwhile, Ahmed and his family are hiding quietly in a cave, struggling to keep their spirits up as they face an uncertain future. Kinley expresses a deep sense of guilt for the situation Ahmed and his family find themselves in, feeling that he's betrayed them. Although he's told to wait by the USCIS, truly gripped in frustration, he decides to take matters into his own hands. He's introduced to Parker, a private security contractor who can help him, albeit at a cost and under a different identity. Basira and her child hiding from the Taliban receive an anonymous call to evacuate immediately as the Taliban has executed Abdi and is heading towards their house. In a close shave, they escape just as the Taliban reach their hideout. Meanwhile, at an unknown location, Kinley purchases some equipment and thanks the contractor for his services. With a hint of affection, Mrs. Kinley oversees John's preparations for an important mission. His mysterious line of work means they live with the constant threat of his death. After John's recent 3-week disappearance, Mrs. Kinley feels the strain of balancing her duties as a wife and mother. Aware of the debt they owe to Basira's family, who previously saved John's life, she insists John must go to Afghanistan to help them. John receives overwhelming support from Mrs. Kinley before an upcoming mission. However, on reaching the office, he faces confrontation due to his excessive actions to rescue a man stuck in a cave. He argues with Cowell about the situation, feeling that the higher-ups aren't doing enough. John's stress originates from a moral debt he feels compelled to fulfill. John is determined to help the man and his family whom he believes are in trouble because of him. He reminds the colonel that he saved his life 8 years ago and expects him to return the favor by arranging the visas. After saying a heartfelt goodbye to his family, he meets Mr. Parker, who confirms that Ahmed's brother, Ali, has located the village where Ahmed is currently present. John and Ron confront Mr. Parker, who'd initially agreed to assist them, but is now backing out due to high-level orders for another assignment. Ron adamantly demands him to honor their contract, while John insists on using Parker's team to help Ahmed. Parker suggests they wait for 3 days, but John and Ron fear the delay could be deadly. Despite Mr. Parker withdrawing his team's support due to other priorities, he proposes a compromise. He will provide John and Ron with necessary resources, and they must find Ahmed on their own. Against advice to wait for 3 days, Ron decides to move immediately, reaching out to Ali for assistance. John meets with Hassan, Ahmed's brother, who is affiliated with the Taliban. Hassan reveals the trouble Ahmed's rescue has caused their business and offers the chance to save Ahmed by providing his location. John is determined to take the risk, even if it means venturing into dangerous territory. John, advised by Hassan, sets out to save Ahmed with Puya, a truck driver who can pass through the Taliban checkpoints. Their journey is tense as they pass an aggressive checkpoint where their cargo of corn boxes is thoroughly inspected by the Taliban. John and Puya murder Taliban soldiers at a checkpoint, and Commander Sattar orders his troops to track them. Simultaneously, Vokes secures visas for Ahmed's family and they get delivered to Parker. Red 1 locates Ahmed and Parker tells John the nearest extraction point. John is given a tower window to extract Ahmed and his family, get his confirmation, and he is warned any mess he left will be tidied up at their end. Upon arriving at Ahmed's hiding place, he tries to convince Ahmed for immediate departure. However, Ahmed seems to be less inclined to leave. Concurrently, Fakhruddin informs Sattar. When John's real identity is discovered, the team at the base decide to turn things around. Meanwhile, John manages to convince Ahmed to flee to America. Fakhruddin learns of their location and they set off to fetch Ahmed's family. John and Ahmed's escape takes a violent turn when they encounter Taliban trucks. As ammo runs out, airstrikes are called in to eliminate the Taliban presence, ironically near the dam. After the conflict subsides, John's team quickly organizes Ahmed's evacuation. John and his team members manage to secure visas for Ahmed and his family. They congratulate each other on successfully completing the mission. Parker escorts Ahmed back to the base where a transport plane waits to take them home. Against a background of expressive music, the characters process the emotions of their tumultuous experiences. The powerful lyrics speak about overcoming darkness, hinting at the growth and transformations they've undergone in their journeys, paths full of lies, division, love, and learning. As the journey of individual characters unfolds, a deeply moving song plays in the background, reinforcing their emotional journeys. The lyrics emphasize the power of love and faith within oneself, reflecting the internal growth and transformation they've been through. The song's repetition of only loving, only trying to only love underscores the characters' resolve to stay true to their emotions despite the adversities faced. As the emotional music continues to play, the lyrics emphasize important themes of love and truth, creating an impactful atmosphere. There is deep reflection and emotional introspection suggested in the scene,